Hello everyone, Abby here, Purple Cottage Crafts, and welcome back to another video here on my channel. In this one, I'm going to be doing a tutorial slash just kind of watch me create a vintage postcard journal. Now I already have 2 samples done. I will be having a complete flip through of each of these individually coming up next in a separate video. These will be up on my website for sale. So this first one here is more of a chunky one, and I know some of us like that, some of us don't. So I wanted to show one that's kind of a chunky, kind of like more my style, and then here's one that's kind of in the middle. I like this kind too, where it's not as big. Let me show you the difference here. So just a little bit chunkier, oops, than the first one, or excuse me, a little bit less chunky. So here's that one. And these are created using vintage postcards as the cover. And then I'm using different papers on the background for each of the 3 2 I've made. One I'm gonna make with you guys, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But it's full of lovely vintage goodness and all that fun stuff. So there are those. And so what I have here is kind of a assemblage of different things that I want to use in the third journal, just some different fabrics and buttons and papers and things like that. Now, as I always do my videos, if you've been a long time subscriber, follower, crafty friend of mine, I like to kind of pull a lot of things together, and then I will cherry pick what I want to use. Sometimes I'll add something that's not on my table originally. And I think a lot of us create that way. So you guys can't see, but over here, and this is my temporary setup in the garage, as I mentioned before, I have one of those larger Costco tables, and I have things in different bins and stuff just to kind of keep things covered in here. And I have a whole variety of different fabrics and just everything you can think of to use. So I will be going over there to grab some things and whatnot. So, and I know that these are small, okay? These aren't like a big, huge journal or something. I don't put all of this stuff in there. I just like to have a little bit of variety in, because it inspires me too. Even though these are things that I may not use, I can still visually see them off to the side and they inspire me. So, you know, you can make these as chunky as you want, as thin as you want, you know, just whatever it is you want to add. All kinds of fun stuff. Now I do have tip-ins in each one. Here's this one. And then it just flips out like that. And I think I showed you the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of share with you real quick what I'm doing. We're going to jump right into this. So this is the vintage postcard that I selected to use. And I always leave this part plain or like exposed because I like how can see the writing and if there's any stamps on it and just the graphics. I think it's just really pretty. So that's what I'm choosing to do with this one. And then for my back on this one, I'm going to be using this older envelope. And so it's going to be put together like this, and then I'm going to use some fabric to do for the binding, and then I'll paint it with just one signature. You can do a couple small ones if you want to do that. I just happen to just choose the one. And for example, for the backs, this one here is a vintage bingo card. I did trim this one down a little bit to fit the postcard because I chose the postcard first, and then I adjust everything else size-wise to that. And then for this one, this is just like a recipe card type of thing, and I like it because the tab was on top. Actually, I do have something that goes on here. I just forgot to put it on. I just realized that. And then I just put on some vintage sheet music paper, and it's in the reds, and I thought that was pretty, so I put that on there. I'm going to go ahead and construct the journal part first, get it together, and then I will go ahead and start assembling the journal itself as far as like adding all the goodies inside and then doing the binding for this. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this stuff off, and we'll get started. So I'll see you in just a moment. All right, so one of the first things that I do once I have the base picked out and the theme and all that kind of stuff is I like to go ahead and work on assembling the actual signature or signatures, depending upon how many you want to put in yours. So clearly this is way too much for this size. I know that, I get it. But I just kind of want to give you a little bit of an example of the things that I kind of pull for. So over here, I just have some vintage items here that I may want to stick in there. Leaning pretty hard that I want to put another piece of fabric in here as a page, which I've done with the other 2 and in many, many journals past. So I have that out here. And then these are just little bits of papers that I have left over from other projects. I might want to use maybe some of these instead of cutting down a larger sheet. We'll see. And then here, this is some vintage, or excuse me, a vintage canceled check. Really cool. This is an old card. This is from a sales book order, and I love this book because it has this in it. I love this so much, and I'm so glad it was like almost a full book of it. And it's from Calgary, Alberta, Harmony Construction. So that's really cool. And then just your normal stuff, glassine bags, possibly just a variety of different tea dyed and coffee dyed papers and some cardstock and things of that nature. And then to use, this is like the masking paper you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's that construction workers use, and I love this, or even brown packaging from Amazon. So I may want to put a little bits of that in there. And then when I was toying around with what I wanted to use for the back of this journal, I grabbed this large tag, and it would work, but I don't want to cut down the vintage postcard at all, and I kind of want the back cover to be a little bit closer to the size of the postcard. So I didn't do that, but I may end up using it in the journal somehow just because of this part. So I left that out just in case I wanted to use that. So what I'm going to do now, just because Abby is a slow creator, which is why I'm so in love with slow stitching, that I'm going to go ahead and kind of whittle down the papers I think I want to use, and then I'll come back on once I have everything kind of laid out, or at least the sizes I want to use, and then we'll go ahead and assemble the journal, the signature for the journal. Be right back. Okay, so one of the first things that I do just to kind of get the size of paper that I want for this journal is I go ahead and take just one of my plain papers, meaning it's not vintage or has any script on it, and I kind of measure that down to the postcard. And of course you can make this larger if you want, you guys can make it smaller, you know, whatever it is you guys want to do. I'm just explaining what it is that I do, so as I'm working on it. And so there's that. So this is the size of paper I chose. So now that I have this, I know for myself, for my preferences, I'm not going to use any paper that's larger than this, and I can kind of scale down and have paper as narrow or as wide as I want it to be. So this is kind of my template for the additional papers that I'm going to be using into the journal. Okay, so now I have kind of a variety of different papers in different sizes that, you know, are no larger than my template, so to speak, there. So what I do now at this point, I have some off to the side that I may end up switching out for something else, is I go ahead and I just start folding them. And then I can kind of decide, once I get the stack of them, which ones I actually want to use. And then when I get that dialed down, then I go ahead and figure out the order. Now, this is not anything new, you guys, so please don't think that that's what I'm trying to imply. I'm just basically, I'm making these anyway, so I thought I'd go ahead and just turn on the camera, chit chat with you guys, and then, you know, kind of show you what I'm doing, how I put them together, because you never know, there could always be somebody that's never done this before that may have questions of like, oh, how do you do this, blah, 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 whatever. And even though there's like a jillion videos out there, they may stumble across mine before others or whatever. So that's just kind of why I do this, just to explain. Ooh, I wanted this on the top, I think. Yeah, I did. Is that what I wanted to do with this one? Because I wanted this to show. Yeah, that's what it was. So just going to get these folded, and then we'll kind of go from there as far as the order. And then I'm pretty sure I want to use the fabric. I'm not trying to make everything inside matchy-matchy with the the postcard, but I kind of want to have the same kind of tones going throughout the journal, which is what I did with the other two that I showed you guys. And I do try to have more of the plain paper, or other than, you know, like the prints and stuff, just so it gives the person a lot of real estate to journal if they so choose to do that with it. Just want to put it on a shelf, if they want to gift it, if they want to maybe put mementos, things like that in there. So this right here, this is a piece of vintage typewriter paper. I'm not sure you guys can see the watermark, kind of. So I tore this to where I could have the most of the watermark on here. So I did that, and it doesn't matter really which way I do it. And sometimes if things are upside down, I don't care about that, because, you know, it's just kind of an eclectic mix of different papers, so, and different textures and stuff. And then I wanted this, I tore this so this could be on the top too, because I like how that looks. I have that on this one right here, and it's not sticking out like super tall, but it's poking up just enough to where you can see it, and I like how that looks. So I just, you know, do that if I happen to have a smaller piece, which I did with this one. And sometimes I'll even tear the end piece off just so it looks a little bit more tattered and not quite so perfect. And I'll sometimes do the same thing with the pieces in here, but I'll worry about that once I get to that point of the journal. So I meant to have these done, you guys, like way before now, to what is today, the December 11th, and I meant to have all this stuff up and done on my channel by December 1st, but, you know, as we all know, life happens, and just different things still, you know, kind of get in the way. We've been doing quite a few activities in our new home area to us, so there's been lots of fun things to do in Townsend, Montana, and in Helena. I'm in Montana, by the way. I'm not sure if I said that earlier. I know I get a lot of newer people that find me, and they're not sure if I'm in Oregon still or where I'm at, so that's why I say that. And I thought this fun map might be kind of cool too, so we'll see if that works out. So we've been doing a lot of activities, just trying to get, you know, know the local community, trying to meet new people, because we're, you know, from out of state. and just different things like that. So I've been busy doing those kinds of things. We're still unpacking. We're not completely unpacked yet. And also, where's my sample piece at here? You know, and then just, you know, working on that, getting the house set up. We've gone back home to visit family. We didn't make it back for Thanksgiving this year, unfortunately. I'm trying to decide if I want it to go this way or that way, because I have a larger piece of this, but I think I want it to go this way. So, and I just rough cut this, you guys. I don't measure. Now, if I'm making something specific, like a, you know, project that's like, turns into like a structure of itself, like maybe a card of boxes, a box of like cards, something like that, then I'll, you know, measure it so I'm kind of exact. Or if I only have a certain amount of a certain material or something like that, then I will measure. But for the most part, you guys, I just eyeball everything. And I know that I am absolutely not alone in that. And I do want to cut this off because I don't like how that looks. And I'm too lazy to go get my rotary trimmer to go do that. So I'm just rough cutting it because I really don't care, because I'm going to be distressing the edges anyway. So if it's crooked, don't care. And then I keep this piece, of course, because I can use this somewhere else. I'll put that there. All right, so I think I have everything folded. I got to make sure I don't fold that because that's the back cover. So I'm going to put that over there. I thought about maybe having a more narrow piece, but we'll kind of see. And then I still kind of want to play around the idea of having this other envelope. I think I'm going to save this to use as a tip-in or something like that, this part. So I'll put that off to the side as well. So whenever I kind of put these together, it's not like the actual final order. I'm just kind of trying to get an idea of how thick it is, the type of papers I want to stick in here. Again, this is all stuff that all of us already know. I am not telling you guys anything new by any means. So let's do that. And then usually I'll take another piece and put it over here for the cover, for the first page inside, so it's not plain looking. If that makes any sense. And I might do that. Let's just put this one here for right now. I may end up switching it with the map, I'm not sure. But I'm just trying to get an idea of, you know, the thickness of it. And it's a lot of fun to add fabric as pages because you can do all kinds of fun things with that. If you've never thought about it, I would encourage you to do so. All right, that's the cover, you go there. And let's do that green masking paper there. This is another piece of that. We'll see how thick we are. This would be great to use as a tip-in as well. Let's see how this looks on the, oops, this is what I'm talking about. Like that, when you open it up, then you can kind of get a really, you know, cool first peek into the journal like that. And it just, I like the way that is. Let me see how much of the plain paper. I may have one too many prints in here. So what I will do, because these aren't very thin, and I do want to incorporate these. I do like them. So let's put that maybe right here. And this is going to give you guys an idea as to why I do a lot of the prep and things off camera, because I take forever. It's all in the details. And I like that. I like being a little fussy with things. And then I like to find something cute to put as the center one. And I'll show you what I've been doing with the other two. All right, so we'll put this off to the side for now. And so this is the cover and this is the back. So this is what it looks like so far with nothing in it. So let me show you, like on this one, this is just a piece from an old music sheet. So I just tore around it and stuck that in the center. And then for this one, I have this right there. So I'm going to do something like that in this one just to kind of carry that theme through. And I'm going to take a moment to go find a smaller piece I'm going to put in there, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so what I did is I just grabbed this old card throughout the journal. Matter of fact, I'm going to leave this part out so I see it. I tend to leave things kind of around my area here that I know that I want to incorporate somewhere into the journal so it doesn't get lost back into the main shuffle of papers and things I have off to the side. That could be the center. And I don't even think I really need to put anything across there because I think it looks really cool. I'm gonna go ahead and trim up the edges here. I'm gonna go through here and just kind of make sure I'm happy with the signatures the papers and the order they are. And then I'll come back and we'll just do a quick pamphlet stitch and we'll get going. Okay, so I have the signature sewed together. I ended up taking out that first or the middle piece. I really just like the idea of just opening this up to the center and just seeing this beautiful graphic from this vintage Christmas greeting card. So I did do that. Everything else is the same. Now, a couple of different ways you can do this, or maybe even there's 5. I don't know. This is just a couple ways I've done it. So my first one, I went ahead, once I got the signatures together like this, then what I did is I went ahead and attached my vintage postcard to the front and then my backing one, and I'll show you guys how I do that. It's really super simple. And then I went in and decorated the pages. And for the second one I did the opposite. I just had the journal like this, decorated all the pages, and then I added the front and the back. And you know, I don't really have a preference on which way I want to do it. I think I will go ahead and just maybe decorate the pages and then put the binding on the journal. Maybe just kind of do that again. So like I said, either way, I liked both ways. I probably had a little bit more control as far as the length of fabric because this was already, you know, full, like decorated and stuff. So I maybe like this way just a little bit better, but I still will do both. So that's what I'm going to do, is put these off to the side, these two here, so I don't accidentally use one for something different. And then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start decorating the pages. Now I use a combination of different types of, much like all of us do for our journals, I use a combination of doing some slow stitching collagey bits in here. I will, you know, clip in different things with my rusty paper clips and whatnot. I do little, you know, I call them slow stitchy collagey bits, and then I'll just put in, you know, just kind of put down like just different textures onto the paper, just something kind of for fun, like this here. So I just use a combination of different things in here. And then I'll do tip-ins quite a bit too, because I do like those a lot. And that's the center. And then this one here is old photo, and I made that into a little tip out there. So, you know, just kind of doing some embellishing is basically what it is I'm doing. All things that we all do. This is the top off of a vintage button card. I thought that was kind of cool. It was already almost torn off, so I just used it and I left the sticker because I thought that was kind of fun to see that it was 10 cents originally. So let me show you the base fabrics that I pulled together, or at least the staple fabrics, I should say. What I do is I just, much like I do for everything, and I'm sure all of us do it too, is I just grabbed the postcard and I went through the fabrics that I have. Try to find tones of the reds and the greens in here. I set these off to the side so I can look at them, and then I decide how I want to incorporate these pieces into the journal. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did end up taking this one out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get myself set up a little bit better and kind of gather a few bits and bobs around me, and we'll start embellishing the pages of the journal. Okay, so now I'm going to work on one of the tip-ins. The tape I'm going to be using is, I can't remember what it's actually called because I threw away the packaging, but it's the kind that has the lines in it to make it more sturdy. Kind of see that? And I love this stuff. I love it. It's so cool. You could age this with alcohol inks if you wanted to. I don't. I just like the way it looks on its own. I'll try to link it below, but that's what it says inside if I can find it. I just got it at a local hardware store, so I'm sure you can get it at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. I have specific scissors that I used to cut like score tape or things like this, so that's what I have a little thing on there so I don't forget. And then what I'm going to be using to just kind of give me some extra insurance that it's not going to come off is I just use some matte gel medium. Now, of course, this is sticky, but again, with it being open and closed and open and closed, I don't want to have that worry of it coming off. So I just use the matte gel, and it dries clear so you can't see it. And I just like how that looks. Or, not, well, I like the way the striping looks from the tape, but it just gives you an extra insurance policy. It just, you know, because it stays on really well. So I really like that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I may end up calling it a night, actually, because it's getting kind of late here. Not that you guys would notice or anything, because, you know, when I clip to the next scene, it's just magically there. Then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut this piece off here. And I always fold a little piece down so it doesn't get stuck on itself. I haven't had much problem with this one because there are times I do forget to do that. Now, you don't have to make your, I've used this with tea bags. Matter of fact, I have a video I did a few years ago. I think I called it DIY Washi Abby's Way, or I don't know, something like that. And I showed you guys how I use a variety of different mediums aside from just washi tape or, you know, different things like that. And so you can make your tape the whole length of whatever it is you're going to make your tip in, or you can make it just right here if you want to. So on the other one I just showed you, I almost used the full length of the postcard. So I just lay it to the side. You can measure if you want to. Again, I told you, I just kind of eyeball it where I want it to go. And if I don't have enough, then I'll use this somewhere else. Or if I have too much, I'll just clip it off. Real super simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So there's that. And then I have my pages kind of marked off where I want to put it. And then I usually put, patty papers, and I did a quick tips with Abby video on that quite a while ago as well. I put that there just so I don't get any extra matte gel medium kind of seeping out and sticking to another piece of paper or something like that. So I really don't even need that because this is towards the front of the book. So we slide this over and get this open, and then I'm just gonna slap this stuff on the back side, and then we'll go ahead and get it tipped into the book. So sometimes I'll use different things to hold tape down, like I'll grab, oh, and I just got matte gel medium on my charging cable. Great. I'll take something to kind of poke it down so I don't have to put my fingers on it once I get medium on it. If I, just kind of depends on what I feel like doing, I suppose, at the time. And I just kind of, you know, hold it down, and of course sticky sides up because we want to add this to it. And I try not to make it too super thick, but I go all the way out to the edges for sure, because the more of this stuff you put on, the longer it takes to dry. And since I'm not going to use the heat tool to this because I don't want to melt the tape, at least not in this application, I just kind of let it air dry on its own. Then I go and work on a different part of the journal. Or in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of let it sit for the night because I'm going to head in here. And then come back out in the morning and finish this up hopefully. So and I just kind of use my fingernail to kind of poke in there just to kind of make sure I got really good coverage. All right, so we have that. Put you away. And then we're going to grab the photo here. And let me zoom in just a tad. All right, and I just put it like that. And again, you can have this photo all the way to the edge of your paper. You can even have it come down a little bit further. It's just whatever you want to do. So I just kind of do that. And another thing about with the using, sorry, I got to get my head a little closer so I can see here. Don't have my glasses on. Another thing I like about using the matte gel medium is it gives you a little bit of play. Because if you're just using this the straight up, where's my towel? Tape itself, if you get it on a little bit crooked, you're probably more likely going to damage your photo. When you try to peel it up, it's going to come up. So that's another reason why I like it. And you can have this where it's evenly, or it's even on either side of the photo or whatever it is you're going to be putting in. Or you can have it, one side longer on the other. It just depends on what you want to do. And we'll pull this off. And then get that out of the way, and then I'm just going to take it to the edge here, and I'm just going to basically just fold it over to the other side of the paper. Make sure I only have one. Sometimes I've done this and I've had two pieces of paper stuck together, and then you just kind of press it down, and then I will either use my bone folder, you can just use your finger, whatever it is you want to do. You can take a piece of, this patty paper, which is it's just hamburger patty paper. It's like wax paper. I don't know if I even finished explaining that or not. And you get them in a box, and I got mine at Dollar Tree, but you can also find them on Amazon too. So, and I use these and that way I don't have to cut down like a big old full sheet of wax paper or parchment or something. And then you have it like that. And so it tips in, tips out. So I'll probably squish this one down just a tad bit more because I didn't get it quite as tight as I like it to be, but that's an easy fix. I just need to bring it over just a little bit. So again, because this matte gel doesn't dry right away, you have a little bit of wiggle room, which is great. And you want to make sure that you're using something that is a little bit stronger, like a washi tape or this kind of a tape or fabric or something, because I tend to find washi tape that you buy in the stores, I don't think it's as reliable. So I don't myself personally use regular washi tape. Let me grab a piece here, or a roll I should say, because it tears real easy, and that's kind of it. It's like real thin paper tape. But I'm worried about it coming off, like I mentioned, and I don't want things falling out of journals or projects, especially when I sell them. So I tend to use something that's going to be pretty sturdy to hold this down and make sure it's nice and secure, because as I mentioned, you're going to be opening and closing this quite a bit. And as you saw in my other journals, I always go back and I'll reinforce the inside. You don't have to, but to me it's just plain blah, So I will go back and where did I put it? I will either add fabric like I did here, just did some basic stitching here, and I make sure I'm not using such a thick fabric that it won't close down. And I do that, and then sometimes I will just use bits of paper like I did in this one. It's just a little extra touch. Like I said, you don't have to do that or anything. So, all right, I'm gonna let this dry naturally, and I might start working on a couple of my little slow stitchy collagey bits just to kind of get the little pieces of fabric stacked together, and then I'll stitch them and all that good stuff. But other than that, I'll come back on camera and we'll do some more in a couple seconds for you guys, and for me, it'll be tomorrow. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next clip. Alright, so what I'm going to work on now, a couple things, is I'm going to make a little slow stitchy collagey bit right there. And then this has dried, and it's just lovely. I love the way that these turn out, these little tip ins. And so just to show you that the matte gel does dry clear. And that's important, I guess, if you are using a clear adhesive like that, and maybe you don't want it to show, because I know some adhesives don't dry clear and you can kind of still see it. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So what I have done before, let me find my sample here, is on the other tip, and I think it was this one, nope, the other one, where I use pieces of fabric to kind of cover that hinge. And it's not because it's not stable, it's just to give it a little bit more stability, I guess you could say. It's like I just put a simple piece of fabric into some simple stitching there. And so what I want to do is I want to repeat what I did in my DIY washi Abby style. I think that's what I called that video. I can't remember. So what I want to do this time is just use some vintage postage stamps. And this is what I did in that video. It was one of my samples of what I like to do instead of just using, you know, straight up washi tape. And these aren't necessarily all Christmassy. This one says peace. Oops, sorry, I forgot I zoomed in. This one says peace, and then this one has like some trees on it. But I chose these because I like the colors of them. I think they kind of go with kind of that vintage Christmassy vibe type of thing. So, and not everything I put in this has to scream Christmas, that kind of a thing, which I love, but it doesn't have to do that. So I'm just going to kind of grab a selection of different ones. What I did is I just lay it down like this. You can have them go whichever direction you want to, that way or this way. So like I said, if I wasn't to put anything there, this would not have any issues. It would not cut off unless you intentionally cut it or something. I just kind of like to have that extra look of having something else on there because, you know, Abby and all the details. But I also like to just have that extra insurance policy, I guess you could say. So I'm just trying to find some here that I kind of like the shades of green. So that one like that. And if some of these overlap, that's okay. Sometimes I find myself being a little too fussy about that. You can do them sideways if you want, you know, whatever format you want to do these in. And then I'm just going to be using some more of the matte gel medium. You can use, I forgot to mention this earlier when I was doing something, oh, this part right here. This is my favorite glue stick, and you can get this on Amazon, and I'll link it below. That would work too. It's a permanent, and I use it in a lot of different applications. I just happen to have had the matte gel medium out. I think I want to use kind of the smaller ones, kind of go with that vibe. Sometimes I will not go over the top of it, and sometimes I do. I like the kind of the matte or the natural look of it, but sometimes I will go over top of whatever it was I had put down. So let's see. Try not to take too much time, which is what I typically do. So let's try to just get going here, Abby. All right, and I like that one. This is 50 cents. I like that better. I like the top of that better. Like I said, this doesn't really matter, but here I am making it matter because do as I say, folks, not as I do. All right, so there's that. Kind of spread them out a little bit. And then we'll do, let's try to find a little bit longer green stamp if I have one in here. I'm just not sure. Oh, this one actually says Christmas on it, but I'm going to save that to use it as a page tab. So I don't want to use that in this particular collage, I guess you could say. Yeah, I think I like that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just get the matte gel out and then just basically put it on the backs of the stamps and then stick it down. And I'll probably go ahead and put some on top as well, just to kind of seal them in, I guess, so to speak. And then after I get that part done, then the next thing I'm going to do is work on this piece here, or this particular page in the journal. I'm going to just take a scrap piece of this fabric that I'm using, and it wants to naturally curl because I tear it, which is fine. I don't mind that. So what I think I'm going to do is just kind of fold it over like that, and then I'm going to put just do some stitching on it. I might add another little piece of fabric on top. Okay, sorry for that abrupt little interruption there. The ringtone on my phone, when anybody calls, except for like my kids, I have a specific ringtone for family and stuff. It's the theme song from Murder, She Wrote, because I love that show, and I don't want to get hit with a copyright. Sorry, it's my daughter texting me now. I didn't want to get hit with a copyright, so I had to kind of abruptly cut that part out, so I apologize. But anyway, so just super simple, just a piece of fabric rolled over. You can add a button. You can also add another little scrap piece of fabric here. I'm kind of using some little, these are some little tiny pieces that I keep on my table just so that I don't forget about them in my other bags that are, well, they're in bags now, but normally when my craft room is actually set up, I have, you know, vintage little tins and cute little boxes and stuff like that, but this will work, what I'm using. So it is something simple, and I just lost my button. You know, you can just make these, I mean, it's hard to tell because my nail's in the way. You see what I mean? Look how cute that is. I'm actually going to go ahead and use that button. I like. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm kind of mapping these things out like this to you guys because I am a slow creator and I listen to different British radio murder mystery dramas and different things like that, classic movies and whatnot. And I tend to just get in a zone and I don't really talk. So I wanted to kind of talk through some of these things as I'm working on them. I wanted to show you this. This is a piece I did, but I just took this is actually the edge of one of the pages I used. I think it was one of these I had in my scrap pile, and it's just the edges of the paper. I'm not sure if you guys can see that too well. And I just layered them on top of each other. So like this is, let me show what I'm talking about because I don't feel like I'm explaining it very well. So like on this piece of paper here, like if I tear the edge off because I just want what's in the middle, I keep the small pieces off the side, and that's all that this is just that. So I think that's kind of cool. Just a visual and a textural thing. I like that too. Sometimes when I do tutorials and whatnot, I have to like not say anything and put music to it, or maybe do a voiceover. Because of my chronic pain, it's hard for me to talk sometimes. It's going to be more painful. So I apologize that I'm not doing every single step on here with you guys as I intended to do. So this is just a piece of that tissue, or not tissue, but it's like, you know what I'm trying to say. Of course, when I'm filming, I cannot think of the proper word for this, but it feels like it feels like onion skin paper. And it's the underside of the receipt that I used from this purchase order. And I love it because of the type that's on there. I just took some natural cheesecloth, and I think, no, I didn't dye this. This is just natural cheesecloth. I mean, it hasn't been, or unbleached, I think it said on the package. And I got it from Amazon. I'll try to link all the things I'm talking about below that you can purchase, you know, now. And so so this just needs to be worked a little bit because I put this on last night before I went in. And then on the top, like that. So when you use things like this, sometimes you might find with certain textiles, fabrics or whatever, or even some thicker papers, sometimes you just have to work it a little bit, and that's not a big deal. I do this, we'll work it through, so whenever I get to the point where I either gift this to somebody or I'm selling it, that it's going to be just like, you know, pretty easy to pick this up and everything if you want to do that. So, and then I may put just a little skinny strip of some fabric with some stitching. I'm not sure, because I'm really trying hard to not over embellish this one, and it's a real challenge for me because I like to do that. So I'm trying to control myself as much as I can. It just feels weird to not have a lot of stuff in it for me personally. So let's see, I did that last night when I just overlapped it on the back because I like how that looks, and you can still see some of the ledger page in there. And I think that might be all that I did. Just have to go to the front here real quick, you guys. This is another one. Again, I'm just going to kind of point these little collage pieces out just in case I didn't do that. Nothing exciting, nothing special. I mean, this one right here, I mean, this is all basic. We all know this kind of stuff. So, all right, so I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on the stamps for this piece, and then doing the stitchy bit on this one here. And then as I'm doing that, I will kind of think about some of the other pages and what I want to add to them. And then I will come back on and we'll do some chit chatting. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work on the two little pieces here that I talked about, and then we'll come back and do some more fun stuff to decorate this little tiny journal. Okay, so what I wanted to do here is kind of talk you through my thought process for this. So I just went through that old songbook as you saw, and it just trot the words "Joy to the World." This is part of a edge of it. What did I draw this from? Oh, this book page. That's sitting right here. And then this is some of that natural unbleached muslin that I had left over, a little scrap. So I'm going to kind of take this and just fray the edges just a little bit, not a ton. And then I will take off any pieces that are too long. I almost said hairs, but you know what I mean. Just kind of clip a couple of those off. I don't mind if some stick out, but for this particular application, I kind of want to be a little bit more controlled, if that makes any sense. Got a little thing here, and it's super windy here, so you guys might hear a little squeak in the background, and I'm sorry if you do. There's just nothing I can do about that, but I do apologize. So hopefully I didn't just bring it to your attention if you didn't hear it before, but I can hear it, and I'm not a fan, but that's okay. So get some of this on here. Kind of see what I did there. I left it where the edge kind of comes up a little bit. So I think I need some kind of a stitchy thing here. I don't have a lot of that in here yet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of flip through the book and just find a few more things that I want to add, because again, I'm trying not to completely overstuff this. Just want to put some more things. I do like to put in a pocket of some sort, which I have with the envelope, some little papers. I'm going to go ahead and gather some more supplies, get myself prepped up a little bit better, and I'll be back. Okay, so now I am ready to start assembling the cover. So the binding that I'm going to be using on this third one is the same as what I did for these first two. So I went through a couple different colors of fabrics and stuff, and the one I feel that works the best is this dark green one here. So this is the one I'm going to go with. And then I was trying to decide what lace I wanted to put on this. Came across this tatting that I have, and then I just kind of line it up like this. So basically you're just sandwiching the signature in between your back cover, in this case it's an envelope, and then the front of the vintage postcard. And I just kind of sandwich it like that. You can use matte gel medium, you can use Fabri-Tac, you can use this if you want. This is what I used. Whatever you feel is going to be the best to secure this for you, because this is basically how the signature, you know, the main guts of the journal is going to be attached to your front and your cover. So you want to make sure it's going to be a really good adhesive. I'm still playing around with the width. I think it's a little bit too wide for me, just because I want to have more of the card showing. And then I have some of this vintage tatting, and I thought this would look really good. And so what I'll do is I'll stitch that on, and I think that's going to look really cute. So just imagine my fingers aren't there and this is on there the right way. So I'm going to get the fabric strips cut to the length I want, as well as the tatting, because you don't need to watch me do that part. Okay, so we are on the home stretch of this little tutorial. So what I'm going to be doing now is I went ahead and cut down the strips of the fabric I want to use for the binding, as well as into the tatting. And then I kind of just did a quick press because the tatting had been, you know, kind of balled up. That's how I bought it. So, and I wanted to kind of cut out the parts that were had a little bit more age showing than others. So just imagine this on here straight. I think it's gonna look really cute. So the thread I'm gonna be using to stitch down the tatting is this one here. It's from Collagey, color 1314. Okay, so I have the straps here all stitched down and ready to go. And also what I did before I came back on camera is I made the little inside strips that I have in the other journals. So whenever we get these on first, and then I'll come back in and then glue this down like that. So it's gonna look like this, what I'm talking about right there, like that. So it's just kind of stitched in. I like how that looks. If you get a little bit wonky when you're putting your straps or your cover on, then you know this is also not only decorative, it can also hide any boo-boos or any unplanned, you know, alignment of your cover there. So I got those all stitched and done. Nothing special, just, you know, stitching. So all right, or just, you know, simple stitch. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the rubber band off of here. Guys, show you guys the envelope real quick. Let me move this so I don't get anything on it. This is, as I mentioned before, this is the back cover, okay? And so whenever this is all together, it's gonna be, you open it like that. And then this is the envelope. This is a vintage envelope, and I just collaged some old paper. And then this is part of a vintage book spine. And here we have that. And then I just put a little Velcro dot right there. Just, I don't know, that'd be kind of fun, just something a little bit different. And then I have in here just it's a little notepad with just some buttons on it. Okay, so let's get going here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my glue. I use the tacky glue, you guys, and I put it on my parchment here. So I'm just squeezing some out on to my little parchment piece here, and just so I have that ready to go. I'm gonna grab a Q-tip. I know you guys can't see this, but I'm just literally putting glue on there. This is nothing exciting that's happening over here. Okay, so go ahead and grab our strips right here. And this can be a little tricky because, you know, it could go like that, like when you're eating a hamburger or something, how it likes to slide out the back end. But, you know, you can get it done. So I have a pretty good idea where I want them to go. I try not to cover up too much of the postcard because it's so beautiful, but I try to kind of eyeball it where I'm going to go. You can measure if you want. You can put like a little tick mark with a pencil that you can erase or whatever, but I just kind of eyeball this. And then when I get this one on here glued, I wrap it around, and then I can look and see, okay, do I need to come over a little bit more? Now on this one, I'm going to be more over on the back than I am the front, and I don't care about that. That's completely fine because I don't want to cover up too much of the image here, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and go off to the side here and just put some adhesive on there and kind of get it spread on. And now I just do the front half first, meaning the part that's, you know, goes this part of the strip. I want to do this just in case you guys want to see that, I don't know. So I just kind of go ahead and put some of the Fabri-Tac on there, or I keep saying Fabri-Tac, the tacky glue. I don't go all the way to the edge because when I press it down, it can smoosh out. Easy to clean up. You can use the Q-tip, your finger, whatever it is you want. And I use these little silicone brush things. You can use your finger, Q-tip, whatever to spread it around, whatever it is you want to do. So I try to go to the edge as close as possible without going too much over it. Possibility of the glue coming out, but I also want to make sure I'm putting enough on that this is, you know, this is gonna stick. It's not gonna want to come off. So we just kind of get this part done first. Got a little fuzzy on there. I'm just spreading it out, real super exciting, I know, but you know, just in case you guys want to see. Some people, they like to see step by step, and there's nothing wrong with that. I learned that way on some things too. Some things I can just kind of look at it and figure it out. So I just kind of get a coating on there like this. and just try to get everything aligned. Now the postcard is not exactly the same size as the envelope. The envelope's a little bit smaller. Oops, sorry. But that's okay because I really wanted to use this for the backing. So it'll still work just fine. So I just kind of make sure I'm, kind of semi-even so I'm not putting the cover on, like that. Unless that's a look you're going for, then you could do that. And I just and I don't want to squish it too hard because I want it to have enough room to breathe whenever you're opening the journal to write in it or whatever it is you're going to do. So I'm just kind of explaining here what I'm doing, and I just kind of grab it like that. Then grab this first piece and just literally putting it on here like that. Now, sometimes with some fabrics you can kind of see it seeping through. It dries clear, so don't worry about that part. And so, okay, we have it there on the front part, which is good. And I'm going to go ahead and glue the last part. Actually, I got a little bit over half, so that's good too. Sometimes I'll just have to add a little bit more glue. Got the back, make sure everything's the right way it's supposed to be. And then we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on. Or you can glue the whole thing at one time if you want. You just do whatever makes you feel comfortable when you're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and just go straight back. And the good thing about when I use this kind of glue versus score tape, which you could use, and I do use that quite a bit. Sometimes you have to, once you get both straps on, I've found that sometimes I have to kind of wiggle it a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit too tight, maybe it's too loose, and you have a little bit of play to do that with this. So just want to be mindful. I mean, I wouldn't wait a couple minutes to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this other part up, and then we'll get the last piece on. All right, we'll grab our second piece here, and I'm gonna kind of go here. Now when you do this, you guys can make these, you can make it however you want. You could put 4 on here if you wanted to. I'm just showing you how I kind of do. This is just one application of how I use this kind of binding. I'm gonna do this one just on the book. That's all I'm doing here, or excuse me, well, it's on the attached to the journal here. All right, let me get a little bit of glue off my thumb and just kind of press it a little bit, and then I open it to see, okay, is it too tight? Do I have too big of a gap right here? Something like that. So, and I look good on that side. Let's go to the envelope side and see. And I have quite a bit of a gap right here. And so what I'm gonna do is lift this up, and then I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter. And like I said, I don't care that there's more on the back than there is the front. Just kind of squish it a little bit like that. Let's kind of see how it's gonna go. Kind of get it down, then we'll check again. Front still looks good. Okay, so the back looks good, and now essentially this isn't going to attach your coasters, your vintage postcards to the signature itself. One way that I do that is with, oh, here they are, with my fabric strips, because I'm going to put some adhesive on the back side, and then I sandwich it in between like this, and I hold it, and that's what binds the books together. And I'll show you here on this one what I'm talking about. So this fabric strip right here is what's holding the cover to the signature, and it's in there, and it's in there good. It's not going to fall out unless you tear it out or something. So that is how I do this part. So all I'm going to do is just get some glue on here, and I'm going to kind of tuck it in, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this glued up, and we'll finish this last part. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of one of my patty papers or piece of parchment there, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get this lined up. And we're just going to go ahead and lay this down. Kind of hold it there and kind of eyeball where I want it to go. And again, this is pretty forgiving. Like I said, I wouldn't walk off after a couple minutes and do it. I would, like if I felt this was crooked, I could still pull it up and wipe off the adhesive if I needed to do that. And then I just kind of squish it down into the center. You can use a bone folder. Sorry, my table's moving because my camera mount right now is actually attached to the table, so I apologize for that. And kind of make the stripes, because sometimes I have it where it's like, woo, looks like a piece of bacon or something. And there's gonna be some, like this side's right here is pretty straight, but there's still a bit of wave. So, that's just kind of the nature of, the fabric moving with the adhesive. If it bugs you, I would probably suggest just using a fabric that didn't have a stripe or something like that if it was a little bit wonky. So, but it adds to the character, I think, to something that is handmade. So I don't mind that personally. All right, just kind of squeeze that on there, but that is in there and she looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the back part, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look. Okay, so that is it, you guys. That is how simple and easy and basic it is to make something like this. This is attached. I don't want to shake it too much because the glue is still drying, but just to show you, it is now attached to the cover. And like I said, there are tons of different ways that you can do this type of technique, or I guess not technique, but I guess a process. But there are so many ways that you can build upon it and do different things. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much with some of the things, but that is the one that is, oh, let me show you all together. I almost forgot. Sorry about that. All right, so here are all three of these together. They will be sold separately. It's not like a commercial. Batteries sold separately. That way, if there's one in particular, that cover that you like or whatever. So this is the first sample I did, and you can see she's really chunky monkey. The second one, I've been showing you guys these, and then this last one here. So I will be doing a separate video on each of three of these for a complete full flip through. That information will be up on my website as well, but you can kind of see the graduated thickness. This one's a little close to this one. Oh, I couldn't myself. It was because of the button on this pocket. That was why. But anyway, it's okay. Nobody's taken exact measurements, I hope. So here they are, chunky, middle, and then kind of the little baby, I guess you could say. So I had a lot of fun working on these. They're so easy to do, quick and easy, and it's a great way to use your vintage postcards or other type of ephemera, but in this sample, it is the postcards. Let me show you the backs of all three together. You can make them matchy-matchy. I wanted to just to kind of play around and have something a little bit different. So, all right, you guys, I will be having these videos uploaded soon, so keep your eyes out for that if you're interested in purchasing one, two, or all three of these. And if you are interested, before I get it up on my website, you can go ahead and send me an email to purplecottagecrafts@gmail.com. It's easier for me to have you guys do that in one spot, so I'm not looking on Instagram, Facebook Messenger, comments under the video, that kind of thing. And in the subject line, just put a vintage postcard journal. We can discuss things from there, all the details from there. So I'll be getting these listed up on my website. All right, so I think that's it, everybody. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.